What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. This is the ACC College Football Betting Preview Part 2. I'm Stuckey, and joining me as always, fellow co-host Collin Wilson. If you haven't already, make sure you check out Part 1 for Miami, SMU, Louisville, Clemson, Virginia Tech, Florida State, Pitt, Virginia, and NC State. Today we're going to cover Georgia Tech, Cal, Wake Forest, Duke, North Carolina, Syracuse, Stanford, and BC. Some of the dregs. I don't think we'll be spending a ton of time on the bottom two, but we will cover every single team. This is the final installment of our marathon preview of all 138 teams. We appreciate everyone listening to us ramble and can't wait for the season to get started. But let's start with the Cal Bears. Win total 6.5, juice to the under. I've seen a lot of love for long shots. I've seen a lot of love for the under. This is a team that brings in Tosh Lupoi, new head coach from Oregon, new offensive coordinator. Somerville comes from the NFL ranks. New defensive coordinator, Hutchins, who also comes from the NFL ranks. Flores. You might see some Flores flavor on this defense, and they might need it because the defense has a lot of questions. But let's start with the offense.
They did keep Nick Rolovich a quarterback coach for JKS. So.
Yep. Of the run and shoot variety. They bring back Jake Cass, who's, I think, one of the best quarterbacks in this league, an absolute stud. And for what he did last year as a freshman, without much help around him, was damn impressive. He can make every single throw. And now he has help. You had Strong from Rutgers, Hendricks from Ohio, bring in Perry from Oregon. Now, Perry and Hendricks are both like slots. So, and Strong's going to be your outside receiver. I'm curious to see how that works. I think they might go like a lot of like Hendricks in the slot, Strong, mix in some Perry, but a lot of multi-tight end sets because you bring back Minnie at tight end. You add Thomas from New Mexico as a stud at tight end. And their freshman tight end, Purcell, I think his name is, he is a freak. He might be like the most talented tight end of the bunch. So I think they're going to use a ton of tight ends. The question that's been bugging Cal for years is, can they figure out the offensive line? You bring back Swinney, who started at the end of the year at center. You bring back Ruffins, who's going to move to right, might move to guard. Vadakani, can he finally figure it out? He's been there forever. He just hasn't performed. You bring back your left tackle and Williams, who's been bad. And then you add Lewis from Mississippi State to play the other tackle spot. So the offensive line has some experience. You get a higher floor with Lewis coming in there. I think this offense can absolutely cook. Now, if Jake Cass gets hurt, it's lights out. Good night. But he has better weapons. Add Muhammad, the running back from Washington, I think we both like. I really, really like this offense. You look at who they lost and then who they brought in. It's just upgrades all over. Like, they lost their offensive linemen to like Colorado, Duke, Kansas, and they have more experience now. There's more weapons. Jake Cass is another year. It's a year under his belt. I like the offense. All of my questions are with the defense. The floor on this defense is so low, it's insane. But there's just so much variance because they bring in like all of these guys from Texas A&M, Oregon, a lot of Texas A&M and Oregon guys like that, but that haven't produced, right? Like that are either cast-offs that have never lived up to expectations or are super young.
Right. Or just can't get on the field.
Yeah. So like you get Crosby back from injury at safety. That's good. I like him. You get Burrell, a defensive end, back from injury. He missed all of last year. High floor player. But then everyone else, it's like, and usually Cal has corners that you can bank on. I mean, this corner is going to the NFL every year. Well, they lost two more corners in the NFL last year in Massis and Austin. And then you lose two stud linebackers, Olave to BYU and Forelli to Ole Miss. You lose your best pass rusher to Minnesota. And then you lost two defensive tackles to the NFL. So, like, look, this defense, like, you need all of these guys you're bringing in. I think the keys to it, you need this nose tackle Johnson from Oregon. Young kid, has the tools. You need him to eat gaps and be a stud right from the get-go. You need basically Lopa, the nickel from Oregon, which is going to be important in this defense. You need him to be a stud from the get-go. And then you need guys like Jernigan or Williams or Tuatele from USC. Like a lot of unproven or just never lived up to Matuidi from Oregon. Like some cast-offs, because there's just not much that you look on this defense and say, oh, I can count on that. I can count on that. I can count on that. But it's Tosh Lupoi. He knows defense, and maybe he knows these Oregon guys, and there's a reason he brought them in. But there's still questions in the trenches on both sides. The defense has a ton of questions after they lost two cornerbacks in the NFL and two really good linebackers that left massive holes. Because it's not like Cal has a ton of money, and you know they had to pay JKS. So you're seeing that impact other parts of the roster. So it's a transfer-heavy D, very, very transfer-heavy D. Like the offense. You got NFL flavor coordinators. I think they should have improved special teams. They can actually maybe kick touchbacks this year. But this is a high-variance team. There's no Miami on the schedule. They do get 5 ACC home games. The worst part of the schedule is they got to go 2 SMU, 2 NC State, and 2 Virginia. Back-to-back-to-back road games. Now, there is a bye in there, but that's pretty brutal with the travel. A lot of winnable. There's just a lot of coin flip games here, but you get UCLA at home, Clemson at home, tough situational spot at UNLV. Va-Tech at home, Wake Forest at home, Pitt at home, Stanford at home. I'm not fading JKS. I know a lot of sharper people are fading this Cal team.
Yeah.
I project 6.2, so I'm right on the number. I could see the case if you wanted to just say, like, look, I got a future NFL quarterback, and if these defensive, power 4 guys all hit under Lupoi, and an offense that I think is good, I could see it, but because there's a lot of variance, which is what you want when you want to take a long shot, and Cal is like 40, 50 to 1. What are you seeing with the Bears?
I think you want to keep your eyes on the new offensive coordinator, Jordan Somerville. When you're installing a more NFL-style system, which is going to benefit JKS in the long run, especially for his pro career, which is going to come up, he needs to know this offense, but it's not veer and shoot that Nick Rolovich has taught him before. So love the upgrades with what he's got at wide receiver. So the question is who can they beat? Because how you handicap the schedule, there's so many games that are within a touchdown. There's so many games on this schedule.
The UCLA game is so big for both teams, the first game. And UCLA's taking money, by the way. The market doesn't like this Cal team. It's not like it's defense, and let's not think the offensive line is slow. But if you lose that game, right, you go to Cuse, and we'll talk about Cuse. The one thing you can rely on with Cuse is they have good corners. They have 2 really good corners, and that's like you can use that to neutralize Cal and their receivers. But you could then be starting 0-2. You're going to beat Wagner. You're 1-2. Then you got Clemson at home at UNLV in a very tricky spot. Like all of a sudden you could be 1-4. But if you win that UCLA game, and the defense looks better, they could be 4, 5, 6-1. I could see so many different outcomes. Yeah.
Well, I think what you have to do is the best chance for wins for JKS and Cal. You have to get into the opponent's secondary, right? This wide receiver crew in JKS, and then you're going to have to avoid teams that can run the ball into what is a very poor defensive front. So let's look at those games. Well, UCLA's got Wayne Knight. That scares me a little bit. I'm not sure if that's the reason why it's trending, but also there's negativity around Cal, and there's positivity. Like everybody's hearing us talk about Chesney or me talk about Chesney. I'm not saying we're the influencers on the market, but that's the feeling and the sentiment that's out there right now. Syracuse has no rushing attack and a poor secondary. Count that as a win. Virginia Tech, poor rush attack, poor secondary. That should be a win. UNLV, best offense in Mountain West with Jackson Arnold. Not that one. I'd be a little bit worried about, even with Cal as a favorite in Vegas. Wake,
I don't know. Cal might be a dog, and that's a brutal spot.
Yeah. Wake, good secondary. We haven't got there yet. Good secondary. NC State, no rushing attack whatsoever, and mid-pack and secondary. They could win that game. Pitt, mid-rushing attack, mid-secondary as far as ACC goes. So to me, Syracuse, Va-Tech, NC State, and Pitt are winnable coin flip games. Like I would lean that way because of how they match up X's and O's. So I'm not. I don't feel the negativity around this program that everybody else does.
No, neither do I.
I'm more worried about the scheme change and JKS learning a more NFL style offense.
Yeah, the biggest thing, like the offensive line, there's still concerns, but the defensive floor is like so low.
Oh, yeah.
They need this kid Johnson to be like Aaron Donald. But yeah,
How does Ron Rivera have so many defensive coaches and they can't coach defense? Like I'm about to go on my Aranda rant again. I just don't understand how these defensive minds can't call a defense.
All right, let's go on to Georgia Tech. Win total 6.5, juice to the under. This is my favorite under, or one of them in the ACC. Like, you lose Haynes King.
Mm-hmm. And Philo.
And then you lose Rutledge the first round, 2-year starter at right guard. You lose your center to Florida. You lose your deep threat to Georgia. You lose a 4-year starting left guard. You lose another receiver to the NFL. You lose a center to Arizona State. You lose your 3-year starting running back to the NFL. You lose 2 other wide receivers to the NFL. You lose all of your tight ends, including one to Florida, a bunch of others to graduation. Who's back? You got your left tackle, McKinney. Your right guard, your right tackle, Carney, is moving to guard, and he might not even start. And you have your backup running back, Hosley. Now, you bring in Justice Haynes from Michigan. Mm-hmm. But who else did they bring in? It's like tight ends from Dartmouth and New Mexico State, a center from Bama who's never played, a wide receiver from Elon, a right guard from Oak State/App State. They need like a bunch of depth pieces to step up on the offensive line. The offense got raided. 14 of their top 17 snap counts are gone. 6 to the NFL, 4 to Power 4, all their tight ends, and a 4-year starting guard. Mendoza comes in from Indiana. Maybe he's the guy. Does Kurt let him go if he's the future? I don't think so. No experience. It's a massive drop-off from Haynes King, who's just a winner. It's going to be a different-looking offense, more run-heavy ball control. They do have a good running back room. You do trust Brent Key with the offensive line, but they also lost their good offensive line coach. And then on the defensive side of the ball, it's their 4th defensive coordinator in 4 years. Their defensive line is meh. Their linebackers are good. You got Light CNF, Kyle Efford returning. But you lose all 4 starters in the secondary. All multi-year starters. 3 went to the NFL. You lose your best defensive tackle. You look at this defense, and I'm not seeing it outside of linebacker. You know, who's going to be? You're asking depth guys to step up at safety. Mm-hmm. Your starting corner looks like it's going to be a Bama transfer who they moved to receiver last year, and then a USF transfer. You bring in a defensive end from Rutgers, a nose tackle from UConn, a depth piece from Bama at the other defensive end. You're going to have like 6 or 7 starters on defense that are transfers, and I'm not wowed by any. Like, this outside of linebacker and running back, what do I feel confident? This is just a young team. They had so much last year. And the kicker is they lose Buster Faulkner. Yeah, probably my favorite offensive coordinator. And this is a very young team. This is a reset, rebuilding year. They also lose a very good punter. Got to get my special teams mention in. Yeah, the schedule, like they play Colorado and Mercer, then at Stanford and Duke at home. Like, they could start 3-2, 4-1. And, you know, there's BC at home. But then it's a pretty brutal last 5. At Pitt, Louisville, at Clemson, Wake, at Georgia. For a team that is a lot of new, when they might, like, Key, because I like Key as a coach, he might be figuring it out. That's a tough stretch. But they do face 4 of the bottom 6. There's no Miami. There's no SMU. So maybe they start 5-2. Maybe they start 6-1, and I'm looking dumb, but I got to go under here. I'm selling everything about this team.
I disagree with your assessment. They could start off hot. I think when you've got this much personnel,
they could lose to Colorado.
I think when you've got this much personnel, scheme, and coach changes, the last thing you want to be doing is staring at the go-go offense in game 1. With this defense, that's a challenge. I mean, you're looking at 22 personnel with Canadian Football League type shifts and motions and all kinds of stuff pre-snap. I know all that stuff's on tape, but you're trying to put in your defense and you're trying to install your personnel, your scheme, your blitz packages. And then you got to face go-go to start. And who's in game 2? Tennessee? I mean, the Vols' new offense with their new quarterback, it's a little warm-up game before they come at you. I don't like the way the season starts for them. Now, Mercer is a complete wipe, right? They're doing a whole bunch of – they've basically been fleeced by FBS. Yeah. So listen, I think the first 2 could be losses. That said, I don't want to take too long because I'm at 6.5. The number's at 6.5. To me, there's just way too many. I have a lot of faith in Buster Faulkner, which means a drop off to whoever the new coordinator is, George Godsey, right? Tight end coach. I mean, when's the last time a tight end coach took over as OC? Like, I feel it was Gerard, what was his name? The one that went to Troy from Notre Dame. Like, that didn't work out either. Gerard Parker.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of confidence here at all. So I think they're in trouble the first 2 games. Like, I probably will be playing Colorado game 1, but we'll save that for week 1. I just don't like how much change is going on both sides of the ball. And I don't think Justice Haynes, while he's a good back, does not have the elusiveness and the yards after first contact that what Georgia Tech had before. So if you're big on the under, I can definitely be swayed that way.
Yeah, I project 5.5. I'm super low on this team.
I have 5 games projected within 4 points, right? And of those games, like Colorado, Vatech, they have what it takes to beat them. I don't think Pitt has the wide receivers. I don't think Louisville with their ground attack. See how healthy they are. And I'm not sure Wake and Gio Lopez, there's a lot of games within 4 points here. And you need an edge to get that under.
I'm going under. Speaking of unders, Wake Forest, win total 5.5, juice to the over. Jake Dicker did an incredible job here in year 1, won 9 games. But the win total's only 5.5 for a reason. The schedule gets much tougher. They get 4 of the top 5, only 1 of the bottom 5. Their schedule broke right for them last year, and so did really close games. They went 4-1 in one-possession games. Their offense is a complete rebuild. You lose your star running back, Claiborne, to the NFL. You lose your stud tackle to Texas, another 3-year starting guard, your starting center and right tackle. And by the way, they came with Dickert from Wazoo. There was a lot of experience on this team and a lot of guys that came with Dickert from Wazoo that knew the schemes who are now all gone. You lose your tight end to the NFL. You lose another wide receiver to Texas, a wide receiver to Florida, a wide receiver to Oak State. They lost 10 of their top 12 on offense, 4 to Power 4, 2 to the NFL, and then a bunch of graduates. Who do they get back? Like Carlos Hernandez, a left guard who's probably going to be benched, and their backup running back. This is a full reset on offense. Gio Lopez, your boy, he is reunited with Rob Ezel, who was they were together at South Alabama when he did have success in 2024. But the offensive line, first of all, the receivers are way down. You bring in Meeks and Shanks. I don't even know the third receiver. And then Hernandez is going to be the third receiver, but that's worse than last year. The offensive line, I legit think it's going to be a freshman right tackle, an Oregon State right guard, a center from Weber State, a left tackle from New Hampshire, and then your left guard played at the end of the year last year. Richard, he played okay. But that offensive line, yikes. Yeah. And I'm not a Gio Lopez guy. Defensively, have a lot more back, and their defense was very good last year. But you lose both your corners to the NFL, and then Anderson at safety, who is a 5-year starter. You also lose him to the NFL. He was a 4-year starter at linebacker, a bunch on the defensive line, including Igboagba to Texas Tech. But you get back Patterson and Hardy, who's good off the edge, and Johnson at safety. A couple guys, Hall at linebacker, a couple other guys on the defensive line that have a lot of experience from last year. You add a cornerback in Blades, who I love. I think that was a great get. He'll start from FIU. Causey from Georgia State, meh. And then you get a safety and Tongue back from injury. So this defense still has some juice, but I'm very worried about the offense. And I do think the defense takes a step back, and the schedule gets much, much tougher. What are you seeing with the Demon Deacons?
I mean, there was a time where Gio Lopez and Fluff Bothwell had a couple games in South Alabama. I thought that they could win the national title, right? And I got to step away from that because the little stint at North Carolina was like a black hole vortex that kind of took everything Gio Lopez had and took it away. There's certain things in here, like Dickert opted not to stand with his current roster amid the eligibility injunction portal window. Like he had a chance to fill some gaps, decided not to do it. Dickert is really riding on Gio Lopez, stating things like, we're going to have a much more vertical passing game with our dropbacks because we were limited last year with the quarterbacks that we had. So the confidence, and he stated like, Gio Lopez is our new lefty southpaw quarterback, and we're completely like relying on him. We have full faith in him. Like it's the things that he's supposed to say, but he's putting a lot of stock in Gio Lopez coming in right now. And
Your boy.
They've lost so much. I don't like the fact that they're rebuilding in the trenches. Like my numbers make this 5.7, so there could be a case for over 5.5, but not when you're rebuilding both sides of the ball in that area. So Merrimack might be the only win in the second half of the schedule. I mean, the second half of the schedule is brutal. And think about the rest of this. Like they're starting off with Akron. I know that spread's going to be north of 3 touchdowns, but Akron's improved. I mean, they're not the dog shit that they've been recently. Purdue can win at home. I mean, that literally, I think Wake is going to be a 1-point favorite in that game. They could be 0-4 going to Stanford.
Yep. I don't show a ton of value numbers wise. I just want to, I want to sell this team. It's just if I got to figure out. I can't bet every under in the ACC, but I'm low on Wake. I got to pick and choose smartly.
I can't bet on Gio with this offensive line. Period. That's end of story.
Yeah, and schedule gets much tougher than last year, and there might be some regression on the horizon. But like I said, like last year, they just had a ton of experienced guys, some guys from Wazoo, and like that's all gone, and no Claiborne as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to another team I want to sell. Shocker, Duke. Win total 5.5, juice to the over. 70-1 to win the ACC. Pretty crazy. Duke won the ACC last year. 70-1. Well, Mensa's gone. Cooper Barkate goes with him to Miami. Mm-hmm. And they bring in Walker Eget from San Jose State, who didn't even play in the Springs. He's recovering from an ACL injury. And he still hasn't won the job. So he's still battling a freshman. What's his name? Mahan, I think.
Yeah, I think you got that right.
So they still haven't decided on a quarterback.
I mean, is he fully recovered from a torn ACL? I mean, how is he not winning this job?
It's pretty shocking, but the passing attack is going to plummet. They lose Mensa. You replace him either with a freshman or Walker. You lose Barkate, and then you lose your right tackle to the NFL, your right guard to the NFL. They started for 3 and 4 years, respectively. You lose your left tackle to the NFL, started for 2 years. And how about your other receivers besides Barkate? Well, you had Higgins, who started for 4 years. He's gone to the NFL. You lose one of your other receivers to Va Tech. Like this offense got raided. Who's back? Shepard is a stud. The running back. He's awesome. Your center, Craycraft.
Yeah.
One of your tight ends, and then a left guard who's really, really bad. Who'd they add?
They have a great punter.
Yeah, do have a good punter. But they have a new kicker. So who do they bring in? It's like they brought in Walker Eget. They brought in a wide receiver from Penn, a wide receiver from Charlotte, a left tackle from Coastal, who I do like. I think will be good. A right tackle from Cal. You never want to do that. And the right guard will be a depth piece. So like this offensive line, way down.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that this is a result of the fact they're in litigation with Mensa for like $8 million for NIL money? Do you think that belongs to the program or belongs to some other conglomerate that is not? Because they didn't bring anybody in. They didn't bring anything in. And they're suing.
Like willing to spend.
Yeah, but where's the players?
Yeah, or they just don't want to spend this year because they just know it's going to be a rebuilding year. But this offensive line way down, wide receivers way down, quarterback way down. At least you still got Shepard, but if you can't do anything else, how much can he really do for you?
Yeah.
So, and on defense, which was so bad under Diaz last year, I mean, it was pretty shocking. They need to get pressure, and they had a good defensive line. Like they had Williams and Anthony and Hall. They're all in the NFL. They were 3+ year starters, all of them. Green's in the NFL as well. Their whole defensive line is gone. Freeman's gone at linebacker. You lose a bunch in the secondary. The only one that really matters is Rivers. He started for 4 years. He's gone off to the Ravens, drafted in the 5th round. So who do you bring back? Not much to get excited about. They need depth guys. They're really relying on depth guys to step up on the defensive line and like a pen transfer. Is this guy Ojurikre from Stanford going to start at corner? That's a nightmare. So Manny, they have a bunch of their guys back from the secondary this year, but they were all bad. Besides Rivers, who was in the NFL, and then they just brought in a bunch of depth guys to challenge, and hopefully you can find a combo. They can't really be worse than last year, but you bring in Smith Young from North Texas, Flowers from Western Kentucky, Loud from Montana, Smith from Northwestern. I mean, it sounds like it just looks like he's throwing shit at a wall and hoping something sticks. But those defensive line losses were real, and this defense could take a big step back. Morris does come back from injury at linebacker, so they should be okay at linebacker, but D-line way worse. And I'm not sure they get better at secondary, although it can't get really worse. Diaz has done a great job. They are one of 12 Power 4 teams to win 8+ games in each of the last 4 years. And their schedule, easy first 4 games, so maybe that helps with a team with a lot of change. You get Tulane at Illinois, who's down, Stanford at home against William and Mary. So can you start 3-1, 4-0? It's possible. They also could face, 10, 11 new quarterbacks. So there's a lot of variance there. They get 4 of the bottom 5 and also 3 of the top 5. So it's a weird schedule. A lot of signs are pointing down, but that's a reason why the win total is at 5.5. Would prefer an under 6.5, maybe juiced. I think the ceiling of this team, I shouldn't really say that with any ACC team, knowing the variance of this conference, but I think this is a 6-6 team at best. So I want to sell them, but I want to sell every team in the ACC. What are you saying with Duke?
Yeah, I'm at 5.4 with a total of 5.5, so I guess I'll be pretty quick here. I think the thing that bugs me if I wanted to take an under is there's some advantageous scheduling spots in here. First off, North Carolina and Boston College will come play Duke on back-to-back travel. I know that's not a very far trip for North Carolina. Plus, at the end of the season, when they go to Wake, what is that, an hour and 15-minute drive? So, I mean, there are some things in here that are pretty advantageous. And then I wonder can there be some voodoo here with Duke, right? Tulane is in rebuild. Tulane is in rebuild mode with Hall ball. I mean, that could. I mean, they're going to be favored, and that could be a win. Illinois, we've covered them in the Big Ten podcast. JUCO transfers in the trench. I mean, Illinois is going to be a favorite in that game of Elisa TD. Not sure if they should be. William and Mary on the schedule. I mean, you just need 2 wins of your final 8 games after that. This could go over. There are spots on this schedule, and the teams that they're facing that are going through bigger transformations than what Duke is, although Duke is pretty bad. I don't know how we keep having these head coaches that are defensive-minded that have horrible defenses, but here we go again.
They're 80th in returning production, and I think they might be they could have arguably the worst team in the conference in terms of incoming talent.
Yeah.
What brought in on the offseason. And the drop off to Mensa to whoever's going to play quarterback is massive. And this is a way worse team than last year. What did I down? I downgraded them 5 points from last year. I want to sell them, but sadly I can't sell every team in the ACC. I'm going to have to figure this out. Let's move on to a fascinating team, North Carolina. What is going on with North Carolina? Their GM Lombardi's under investigation. Steve Belichick, their DC, who I like, he's on medical leave.
Yeah,
they have a game in Dublin coming up. They just named Billy Edwards, old Billy, the starting quarterback. See if he can stay healthy. He's out of Wisconsin, so that's a good start. What is the team? They brought in Bobby Petrino as the OC. Now, what about you need tackles to run it because he's going to lead his tackles on an island. Their tackles, like they all, this could all like the wide receivers. Like you bring in Humphrey from Lehigh, you get Ship back. June's your running back. Kekuhana from Wisconsin in the slot. I like him. You bring in Jackson Warren from Colorado State, tight end. Like they brought in some real talent, and they also focused on like freshmen, and they brought in a good recruiting class. It all falls apart though if the offensive line falls apart. So what does the offensive line look like?
Yeah.
Hall started the Final Four last year, but he was bad. You get Banfield at left guard back. He started the first four, then he was hurt. You get Kelly back at center. He played the first game, then was out for the year. He was going to be the starter. He's from Holy Cross. So what do you have there? You don't know. Your right guard came from Charleston Southern. He's starting. And then your right tackle is this dude McCroy, who came with Petrino from Arkansas. He's like 350 pounds, but he's never really played. He played like the opener against the FCS team last year. So your starting offensive line, which you need in a Petrino offense, is a guy who started 4 games who looked bad. A guy who started 4 games at left guard, who we don't really know much about that, and got hurt. A center who came from Holy Cross and got hurt in the first game. A right guard from Charleston Southern, and then a right tackle from Arkansas, who's huge, but we don't really know if he can play.
Right.
That's what it all comes down to. Then on defense, because you're replacing all 5 starters on the offensive line to finish the year. And there were a ton of injuries last year, which makes like the trying to figure out their offensive line more difficult. Their linebacker room is going to be way down, right? I mean, you're starting McDonald, who comes from Syracuse. He has a lot of experience, but he's not been good. Sealman comes from Richmond. He was a stud at Richmond, but big step up in class. Jalday is awesome, their defensive end. And I'm hearing good things about the other defensive end, Harvey, who comes from Penn State. And then you're going to need some guys to hit, some guys that played well on the interior. So like I kind of like their defensive line, Jackson, Johnson, Lewis, Jalday, Harvey. But I think their linebackers going to be down. Secondary, major questions outside of Smith, who's awesome at safety. Patterson could be okay at corner, but the rest are pretty much a question. And then the schedule is brutal. Mm-hmm. I mean, they face 5 of the top 6 in league play. They start with TCU in Dublin. There could be a Dublin effect. They face only 2 of the bottom 9. They only face 1 non-power 4 team in ETSU because their non-con is, they face UConn. They go to UConn in a brutal spot, by the way, between Miami and Louisville. So they play TCU and Notre Dame in the non-con. I mean, this schedule is vicious. I don't know what's going on with this team, but there's some talent there and some interesting pieces. Like if they hit on some of the defense pieces, it all comes down to the offensive line for me. But the legit floor is 2-10. Would you agree? Like they have a floor of 2-10.
That's why
total
I'm
4.5.
Taking notes on ETSU today. Like, they're 7-5. Will Healy is the coach. They have a returning quarterback. ETSU's, I think if it ended on Sagarin last year, it'd be like a 14-point game. But I mean, this is the first time they'll play when they come back from from travel overseas. Look, the whole thing, and you've already called it out. The Bobby Petrino offense only goes as far as the running game. So is Demon June going to be able to still be 4.3 yards after first contact, or is he going to get touched in the backfield? Not only do we not know the names of these kids that are on this offensive line, they have little experience. Like, we just don't know their footwork. Like, are they good run blockers? Are they good pass protectors? Like, there's just so much unknown with the offensive line. Not saying that it can't be good, but a Bobby Petrino offense only works if you have a running game, period. And, Jordan Shipp is coming back 1.8 yards per route run. That's great. But once you get outside, I mean, it's all pending on that offensive line because of the nature of Bobby Petrino's offenses. Now, I mean, I project him at 3.5 wins. So I don't know how you don't play under 4.5, especially with Dublin travel, where I think TCU is going to circle him a couple times, lap him a few times over there. Where's your wins? ETSU? I mean, it's not like we just talked about Mercer.
Not with this ETSU.
Syracuse is a pick'em. And then are you going to go beat UConn, which by then should be okay.
It's also sandwiched between Miami and Louisville, like going up to UConn. It's brutal.
Yeah, a perfect spot for Jason Candle to win and pump his chest. So, I mean, I think the argument you and I are having is you asked me if 2 wins is the floor. I'm serious. Like, I'm not sure if 0 wins is the floor. I'm being honest. If the offensive line is bad, if the offensive line is bad, look what's going on with Lombardi, right? Who is in control of this program? There is no authority here when we thought the most grand authority of all football was coming in. So where is the floor? I think it's 0.
I think it's 2 wins. I mean, like, unless they're not losing to ETSU, unless they go to Dublin in week 1 and get there's an outbreak of the Black Plague or something. But yeah,
I like black pudding. You like black pudding? I get in trouble for that. I love black pudding. It's excellent.
Oh yeah, black pudding's amazing. I love a good Irish breakfast. And yeah, I think the floor is 2 wins. But like, they did bring in talent. Like, they had like a top 25-ish incoming class.
Yeah.
But they're outside the top 100 in returning production.
The Belichick thing,
like, the variance on this roster.
The medical lead by Belichick, which I have not seen a data when he's returning. Like,
yeah, and it just seems like Belichick's like, we're moving on. So I don't know.
What he did at Washington, like, he turned them into like the number 1 defensive finishing drives team. And then last year, what were they? They were mid FBS and limiting quality drives, finishing drives, top 40 in pass rush. Like, I mean, he had it turned around. Like, he had UNC doing something on defense. Steve Belichick is a great defensive coordinator.
Yeah, could be a big loss. Yeah, I project. I'm a little more bullish on some of these pieces they brought in, but everything going on around. I mean, I project. I'm like at 4-6, so nothing for me. But I can easily see why you'd want to go under. All right, let's move on to Syracuse. By the way, I want to like sell all these teams, and the only under I bet is Miami, the best team in the league. The only under I bet so far is Miami. So Syracuse, there's a team I don't want to sell because I project like 4-4. Win total's 4.5. They're 100 to 1 to win the league. Steve Angeli, presumably healthy, coming back after getting injured last year, and their offense went into the tank. He might have been worth 20 points last year. They lost 8 straight after he went 3-1. They didn't get the 20 points in any of the remaining 8 games, and their offense was horrendous. I mean, you had like a lacrosse bro out there at quarterback. The rest of the roster, there's a lot of questions. I love their corners, Samuel and Peel, but everywhere else, their weapons, it looked like, got worse. And then your 5-star Russell tore his ACL. The offensive line is still a question. I mean, you do bring back Cruz and Mack and Washington, but it's not like anyone on that offensive line was great. You know, you had Weatherspoon, who was good at right tackle, and he went to the NFL. So there's questions on the offensive line. It does look like Ross Simmons will come back at receiver. It looks like he's going to get the 5-5 deal. He had a good connection with Angeli. That does help. But your running backs have questions. The offensive line still has questions. The pass catchers as a whole do. But you're hoping that Juan Castillo, which is a really good hire as an offensive line coach, can figure out this offensive line, raise the floor. And then Angeli, obviously, is going to be a major upgrade to what they had going on. And at least they did bring in Amari Odom. So, like, it's not like the fall off to the backup is going to be catastrophic. Although if Angeli goes down, it's not going to be great. Defensively, you know, you do bring back a little bit more than you have on offense. You bring in some low-level transfers. Georgia State, UNLV, Toledo. The Toledo D'Apolonio is a good bring because I thought they made a good defensive coordinator hire in Vince Karras from Toledo. And he'll be an upgrade over linebacker Bryant. So you got a good quarterback duo. You got a good coordinator. You got a good offensive line coach. So you're hoping schematically you fix the defense. Offensive line you fix. Angeli's back. I can see a little bit of a bullish case for Syracuse, but the schedule is pretty brutal. They only get 1 of the bottom 7 teams. There's no Miami, but they get 6 of the next top 7, plus Notre Dame. Now, the weird part about their schedule is they host Louisville, they host SMU, they host Clemson, and they host Notre Dame, which means like you're going to UNC, to NC State, to BC. before Notre Dame, to Virginia. So you got to have a pretty high floor if you want to win some of these road games. And then how many can Q steal? They're usually good to steal one. How many can they steal against Ville, SMU, Clemson, Notre Dame? I'm right on the number. I like some of the hires. They do lose a good punter. And they're going to play a lot of man coverage, and they have two really good corners. So schematically, I think they'll be better on defense. They're going to need some of these depth guys and lower-level transfers to hit on the defensive lines, guys like Adelaide from UNLV, Fontes from Maryland. So there's still questions here, but I think they'll be better as long as Angeli stays healthy. Do you see anything with Cuse?
I project them 4, and I think the defensive line is garbage. And I think the running back room
doesn't look great.
Yeah, I think the running back room is just as impotent. I was making a case to go under here. And frankly, they allowed 35.
This pod is going to get. They're going to under. One of us is giving an under recommendation on every single team. That's how I feel about the ACC.
I mean, if you want, this could turn into a board bet on 4.5. But I'm telling you, they gave up 35 points per game, and I'm not sure with this defensive line, and the secondary ain't great either. I'm not sure that's going to get any better. I do like their DC hire. I get it. But still, you have to have players, and they don't have any players, and which really is shocking. By the way, Fran Brown, I'm not sure what's going on. He shows up and tells everybody in camp that Angeli is full back to health after his Achilles. When asked about other injuries around camp, he declined to go into any detail about any player that is suffering injury right now. So I understand wanting to hold on to your cards, but we don't know if anybody's hurt right now. We don't know if they've lost key players. He's been adamant about not letting that out. So this is the third toughest ACC schedule. Realistically, who are you beating here? You're beating New Hampshire. You should beat Cal. You're at UConn early. You're off a bye when you do that. According to me, from the last preview we did, we should beat North Carolina. And at BC it should be a win too. So that's, to me, there's 5 realistic wins, and that's it. That's how you get over. They lose one of those, and 3 of them are on the road. It's under City.
And I disagree with you. I think their corners are good. I like their corners, Peel and Samuel. But the defensive line does worry me. But I think schematically they'll be better, and we'll see if Castillo can get guys like Pringle and Akinshola comes over from UCLA. He knows Castillo at least. I don't know. Angeli raises their floor, but I'm right on market. All right, let's knock off the final 2 teams in the ACC. Stanford win total 3.5, slightly juiced to the over. Mm-hmm. They do have some returning experience. New head coach, new coordinators with NFL experience. Pritchard comes in of Legion of Boom lineage. They have some experience. Davis Warren off an ACL who missed spring. He was named the starting quarterback. This is going to be the smartest team of all time. You look at Stanford already, and then you look at who they brought in. Their centers from Harvard is going to be a Harvard transfer. They brought in a couple Yale transfers at receiver. It's pretty funny, but they have 4 returning starters on the offensive line. They should have a decent running game. I like their linebacker. Matt Rose is a stud. Their cornerback Nicholson's pretty good. There's some pieces here to like, but overall, it's not a very good team. I project 3.9. So, of course, this is one I would lean to the over. They do have 5 ACC road games. And they host Miami, Georgia Tech, and SMU. So, can they get one? They can get Georgia Tech. Because you would like to host some of the worst, the mid to bottom teams with that trip. And they have 5 long trips themselves. I do think they beat Hawaii to open things up. And then, where else the wins come? Can you beat Georgia Tech? I think so. You're going to beat Elon. That's 3. So Hawaii, Georgia Tech, Elon. Where's your 4th coming? Is it SMU in the finale? Is it NC State? So you get 3 of the bottom 8, but they're all on the road. Duke, Cal. I don't think Cal's in the bottom 8, but they're mid. Duke, Cal, Wake. Can you get any of those road games? Because you get none of the other bottom teams. So I think they can get the 4, slightly into the over. Not sure I'm running to bet Davis Warren. But because I'm so low on a lot of the other teams, I do have a small numbers lean to the over here. Do you see anything with Stanford?
I very much appreciate the way this team is putting together. It's just happening very slow. So Tavita Pritchard is the new head coach. He was the backup to Andrew Luck when they played together. And they spent over I think Tavita Pritchard has plenty of experience in NFL, and that's really the system that Andrew Luck is kind of enforcing here, a physical pro-style concept, smash mouth, power running, multiple tight ends, elite offensive line blocking, which now is going to be led by all Ivy Harvard transfer center Aiden Killstrom. So that ought to be pretty interesting. So I appreciate the vision, and I appreciate what they're trying to get to and the players that they're getting to get to that. Davis Warren doesn't really put a lot of hope. Mike Mitchell, the freshman, we'll see what he's got in there. Top 3 receivers have moved on, but, Micah Ford returns for the running game. He had 3.9 yards after first contact. I like the running game. You mentioned the Legion of Boom. That means there should be some cover 3 with length at the corner position. You're going to press at the line of scrimmage. Linebackers should be capable of playing in coverage. Now, that's how it works. That's how it's drawn up. The question is, will they execute? I like the linebackers on this team. The defensive backs make me a little worried. 2 bye weeks, thanks to playing week 0. Hosting Hawaii, you get to stay at home for a little bit longer on the farm, and I don't even think the kids report till the end of September there. So East Coast travel, Duke and Virginia Tech, so we'll see how that goes. But there's plenty to like, but I can't find a way to get over on this team. I think the only play on Stanford is the under, but I feel like I've been in this position before where they win a couple games straight out of the gate, and then I'm sweating the rest of the season wondering when the hedge spot comes. They can beat Hawaii, especially if Pavel Ashlock is not making that trip.
They're beating Hawaii.
Huh?
They're beating Hawaii.
Yeah, right. So,
the way they get over is they beat Hawaii, and then they beat Georgia Tech, which I think they can do, Elon, and you need to steal one other. Like you're telling me they can't beat NC State at home?
Yes, they can. Yeah, but NC State's off. NC State's
or
off
SMU at the end of the year when SMU does an SMU thing.
Well, I think if SMU is knocked out of the playoff run, they chalked that up to Cal last year. You're right. I mean,
you needed to win that game, so I think they're going 4-8, but I'm not sure I'm running to bet it. All right, let's finish up. But
financially, you'd rather pick the right double-digit upset than bet on the over -325, -125, 3.5.
Yeah. I'll be looking to bet them a couple times, but probably not for win total. All right, let's finish up with BC before we get to Notre Dame. BC win total 3.5, juice to the under. This team got blown up. I mean, the staff, they replaced like 80% of the staff, Bill O'Brien did. This might be his last year, and I think he's a good coach. He's just in a tough situation. 30-plus players out to the portal, 30 in, and they got, from a talent perspective, it was a net negative.
When the coach takes over the play calling, it's last call at the bar.
It's last call, and he's relying on Mason McKenzie as his quarterback from D2 Saginaw Valley State.
Ooh,
maybe he's Trinidad Chambliss. Maybe that's what they're hoping for.
Sure.
They lose their running back to Indiana. They lose their top 2 receivers. They lose their 4 best offensive linemen. You're probably going to see a lot of 12 personnel again. There's not a ton of talent here. I like some of the pieces in the secondary. Their schedule is also brutal. They get 80 ACC games, plus at Cincy, plus Notre Dame, plus Rutgers. They got to stack wins early because this is their – they got to beat Rutgers in Maine, I think. Rutgers is the red bandana, Maine at home. You're probably going to lose at Cincy, so you're 2-1. How do you get to 4 wins? You got to shock someone at home like FSU or Cuse, because you're at Miami, at Notre Dame, at Duke, at Georgia Tech, at SMU. That's going to be tough to get the 4 wins. Anything on BC?
There's a lot here to not like. Bill O'Brien calling his own plays. We're doing 12 personnel, heavy rush. I mean, these transfers, the running backs are from Liberty, Maryland, the wide receivers, this is just, they didn't get the players that they needed. They're going to expect to, with Ted Roof, I mean, this is his 15th program as a defensive coordinator since 1995. And it's going to be a lot of blitz heavy concepts. He's going to expect maximum extreme pressure packages. He needs to find, and I didn't see it in the notes. He needs a jack linebacker, which is an edge that can drop into coverage. I haven't seen that sourced yet. The defensive line might be the worst in the conference.
Yeah, the D line's in trouble. Like, they brought in some linebackers that aren't bad. And then their secondary, they had a lot of young guys who got experience last year because they had so many injuries. So if they take a step in the line, but the defensive line could just be their downfall. And then their offense, how can you really be confident in this offense?
And here's the difference between Syracuse and Boston College. The games that Syracuse has to win are on the road. The games that Boston College has to win are at home. Maine, Rutgers, Syracuse, Virginia Tech will be on back-to-back travel. So I'm not saying they have a chance against Virginia Tech, but the difference between Syracuse and BC is that BC gets these must-have games at home. So I lean under. They're favored over just Maine. There's not another real favorite on the schedule. I mean, they're a pick 'em against Syracuse. But, I mean, maybe you and I should go head-to-head, just BC, Syracuse in a game, because I would take BC.
I mean, no, I'm not running to go head-to-head in week.
You don't want my Ted Roof aggressive pressure packages on your Angeli Achilles?
No. I mean, last year they won 2 games. They were a better team last year, but they went 0-3 in one-possession games. So, like, they were close. Like, they lost to Michigan State on the road in double overtime. 42-40. They lost at home to Cal in a game that was winnable by 4. They lost to Georgia Tech at home, and again, they should have won by 2. So they're like good to almost pull off an upset or 2 at home. I don't know. It feels like 3-9 year, but my numbers are like 3-3, so pass. All right, let's finish up with Notre Dame. All right, the last team, 138. By the way, UConn, we covered it in the Conference USA preview. Under Jason Candle, fade.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Notre Dame, plus 600 to win the national title. Right around the same, co-favorites, I would call them, with Ohio State. Win total is like you can go over 11.5 plus 164 or under 11.5 minus 205. So basically plus 164, they go undefeated. This team's loaded. Tops in returning production. They obviously need Carr to stay healthy because it might be like a 10-point drop to his backup. That's the key. He was great last year. Year 2 bump. They are loaded everywhere. They have a couple injuries, but they're going to get healthier as the year goes on. This offensive line is going to be great. Running back probably takes a step back. He had 2 go in the first round. But there's not many weaknesses on this team. The secondary is disgusting. I mean, this secondary, they have so much talent. I don't know how they're going to like put it all together and who's going to play where, and they can afford injuries on the back end. They have so much experience, so much talent. They should start 6-0 in their sleep. Wisconsin, Rice, Michigan State, at Purdue, at UNC, Stanford. They could sleepwalk to 6-0. Then they're at BYU. That could be a tricky spot. This is basically a 2. They might be like 17-point favorites against SMU at home.
Right.
So BYU, there's a chance that they're 7+ point favorites in every game this year. But the BYU will be a tricky spot. And then they have home against Miami. That's basically their schedule. And they better go 11-1 with this schedule to make it. How funny would it be if they finished 12th and Miami finished 11th and Notre Dame got in because of the new rule? And then people will be clamoring to make a new rule. This is what happens every year. This is my national champion. And one of the reasons, this is their revenge tour from last year. Freeman, I think, is a great coach. I love their staff. Lead, no doubt. As long as Carr stays healthy, I have them power rated number 1. And unlike all these other teams, because of this schedule, because of no conference championship, they can load manage, they can get healthy, they can build depth, and they're going to be the freshest team in the country come the college football playoff. I love this Notre Dame team. I think they win the national title. You got anything here on the Irish?
There's zero negativity other than we've got some pieces to replace, right? So first off, you're going to watch out for the backup quarterback job between Blake Habert and a couple of true freshmen, Noah Grubbs and Teddy Gerard, just in case that's
no, you don't need to watch that. If Carr goes down, it's over. I mean, they'll still probably go to the college football playoff, but they're not winning anything. Yeah.
So Jeremiah Love's off to
the Cardinals. They should not have backup quarterbacks on their roster. They should use them for other positions. That's what would happen this year.
There we go. Punter. They could be punter.
Yeah.
Jadarian Love's off to the Cardinals. Jerry Price. I've been watching him on Hard Knocks. He was such an underrated piece of that rushing attack. And now what you're seeing in camp is Nolan James. They're calling a 3-down option who just needs reps. I did notice Charles Jagasaw hurt again. Sophomore offensive lineman Matty Augustine backup. He's out with the right foot. I think that was just the other day. So there's some offensive line. I'm not saying we've had years where the offensive line has just gotten whacked 2 starters before they even played a game. Charles Jagasaw being one of them. Well, apparently he's dealing with injury and he was going to be a starter. And now a backup offensive lineman is out with Augustine. So keep your eye.
I mean, they knew Jagasaw was going to be out. I think he's going to come back eventually. Like the other thing is that that's the beauty of this schedule. Like they have a couple guys, right? Like Bowen had off-season surgery. Billy Massa is recovering from an ACL, but they can sleepwalk and then just rest. They don't have to rush anyone back because they could just sleepwalk to 6-0. Although maybe I shouldn't say that because Freeman every year.
Northern Illinois, you're going to get Northern Illinois. You keep saying
Marshall.
That, right?
He's 3-5 over the first 2 weeks of the year with losses to NIU and Marshall. 40-7 after. So did they lose to Rice in week 2 at home?
Look,
they get optioned.
Here's the deal. Why I'm going through backups and I'm going through offensive line. Because if you're going to place the 2 bets that you and I are going to make on Notre Dame, you need to have all your bases covered. And it ain't just 4. It's like there's a billion bases here. I love CJ Carr. He's got to stay healthy. He can do everything. The only bad half that he had last year was the first half against Miami. The rest of the season was great. You're right. This is a revenge tour. You go 10-2 and you're the first team out of the college football playoff. You turn down a bowl. Freeman, this is a calling card. This is the flag is flying. We're megaphoning this to everybody that we're going to take you out. And that's the attitude that they have. I loved CJ Carr last year. I'm not really worried that with pressure, his turnover-worthy play rate doubled. That happens to every freshman. And I expect that to have mass it'll be much better this year. Like what he does in the pocket with pressure. I know we have a Heisman pod that's going to come out. If I was to get invested in that, which I won't, we won't as Heisman voters, I don't know how you're passing on CJ Carr. Because, I mean, literally 11-1, it's his. 12-0, it's definitely his. So from an investment standpoint, that's another option on the board. A lot of people like to put Super Bowl MVP or the Super Bowl winner based on the money line. I think CJ Carr is hand in hand with this team going undefeated as the Heisman. He didn't record a single turnover-worthy play in 4 of his last 5 games. Now, in one game against Pitt, he had 3 of them. But other games than that, he got better and better as the year went on. Nolan James it's just so scarce. 33 yards on 13 carries. It's mop-up duty against Purdue, Arkansas, and Syracuse, and Stanford. So you don't really have any there. Aeneas Williams, 7 TDs in 2 years. He's been serviceable. He's gotten touches in national title games, but I don't think that this is the star back that you're really wanting to get into. Now, Faison, great house. Quincy Porter's coming back from kneecap surgery. You want to make sure CJ Carr's got his weapons downfield. I mentioned the injuries. I didn't say Peter Jones is dealing with an injury also. I think a pectoral. Keep eyes on that. He's one of the best offensive linemen that they have. There's 2 potential losses on this schedule. It's at BYU week 7 and hosting Miami week 10. The potential blindside upset on this schedule is SMU. I mean, that's one right there.
SMU needs to throw, though. Like, you're not throwing on Notre Dame.
So here's my plan of attack. I've already made up my mind that Notre Dame is beating Miami.
How's BYU going to move the ball? Because they're just going to their receivers aren't going to have an ounce of separation.
I hate BYU so much. You hate it.
I love BYU. I'm just saying they're going to. How many times can they hand it to LJ Martin? Because they could just man up their receivers and just wipe them off the field.
The second I saw Bear Bachmeier take a snap, I was writing love notes to the BYU program. I'm telling you. All right.
No, Bear's great.
Look, so you're betting national title. I'm betting undefeated season plus 160. And my plan of action is a hedge at BYU. SP Plus makes it Notre Dame minus 8.5. I make it Notre Dame minus 9.5. You're going to get money line wise, what? 220? I'm playing plus 160. And I will be hedging October 17th in Provo, particularly if they make that game like 9 p.m. That place would be crazy. Like that
it's going to be funny when Notre Dame goes 11-1 and loses to Rice. No, but that is going to be an awesome atmosphere. All right, we got to wrap it up. We did all 138. Pick your winner for the ACC and your favorite win totals or futures. I'm going to go. I don't mind that Miami. Here's a crazy thing. I'm going to go Miami under and Miami to win the ACC. Want that ticket in my pocket. I think they go 10-2, lose to Notre Dame, Marios, and they get to the ACC championship, and they finally win the ACC. I'll say they do it over SMU. Favorite over is Va Tech. Favorite unders are Georgia Tech and Miami. Other unders I like, I got to decide on are Virginia, Wake, and Duke. I want to sell those teams, but it's tough with all the uncertainty and all of the mishmash in the middle. I can't play unders on every team, but I want to sell a lot of these teams. And Notre Dame's my national title pick. How about you?
That's good because I'm going to sell one. Miami minus 140 is available at DraftKings. That will not be there by the time the season starts. And I mean week 0. The season really starts on week 0. Notre Dame to go undefeated, plus 160. I think that's the way you got to play it and have a hedge strategy. My favorite total that I'm loving more and more is Clemson under 7.5 plus 120. I don't think Vizinha is the guy. I think that they're going to have to go to the backup. I just don't think they're going to call that out yet. I don't like Chad Morris. I don't like the offense he's trying to install. The defense, for some reason, can't grasp Tom Allen. You said Maryland circling the drain. Well, the water's running and Clemson's floating. So under 7.5. I make them 7.
All right. I think they win 8 games, but I can see it. All right, that'll do it for us. All 138. Thank you so much, Colin. Thank you, Duck. Thank you, Breeze. Thank you, David. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. We will have a recap show. We'll go through, all 4 of us will be on it. We'll go through every conference, list out our favorite bets that are still available. We'll have that early next week. You can go back and listen to all the previews. We cover every single team in the offseason. It's a lot of work. It's a labor of love. And I look forward to doing it every year. I'm also looking forward to a nap, and then I got to get ready for our NFL podcast, which we'll be doing on Friday. NFL previews, Action Network podcast. Make sure you check that out. We'll start flowing early next week. There's no sleep this time of the year. And yeah, make sure you leave a 5-star review if you can. Help us out. We do giveaways during that show, that recap show. We'll have the award show, and then we'll have week 0 previews. G6 guys and Colin and I will have our week 0 previews next week. And then it's business as usual. Voicemails will be back, in-depth previews. Let's have a season. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Cheers.
Peace out.